Greetings. Welcome to a new episode of the Becoming Chiron podcast. And I am so honored and thrilled and excited to welcome my dear friend Valeri McLaughlin to the podcast today. Hi, Val.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We made it happen.
Yeah,
So, let's get kind of into the material. I just want to give like a little overview since it's been a few months since my last first interview episode. So, just to remind everyone, my intention with these is to just give a voice from somebody besides myself to the Chiron placement through the house, the sign, and then this is a really big episode for me and for you because you are on the brink of your Chiron return.
oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I am too. So we'll talk about that too because I looked up your dates and you actually are one of the few that have 5 chapters of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it's going to be a multi-part, multi-phase story for you, which I think is actually really exciting.
Yeah, I always embrace those things, so
You totally do. And we'll get into that too, because with your placement, it's all about bravery and courage and the warrior energy. So just to kind of do like our little Chiron check, today is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and Chiron is at 23 degrees of Aries. And we just had our annual Chiron Sun conjunction on Saturday, just before that big Libra full moon that we had. So this is pretty cool timing about, that and what's going on in the skies. And then it's also, Val, about 5 years ago, around this time is when we did our first interview.
yeah. I was thinking about that last night of when we actually met, and I was like, it's only been 5 years. It feels like a lifetime.
It sure does.
I
I
was like,
looked,
that can't be right. I have to go back. I'm like, no, I can't go back further.
yeah, it was April 12th of 2020.
Yeah,
And then just
crazy.
to, if anyone else, listening or whatever doesn't know, we actually have a total of 7 interview episodes compiled in our library.
Yeah,
So it's kind of cool to be on the other end of it this time around. So are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Okay. So let us share your chart. So for everyone tuning into the video, you can see Valerie's chart. And Valerie is a Scorpio rising with Chiron in the 6th house in the sign of Aries. And for everyone listening, tuning in, Valerie's Chiron is at 27 degrees of Aries. And there's Jupiter's really close, Mars is really close. So Chiron's kind of been in Aries now for a while. It started doing this dance between the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aries back in the spring of 2018. So it has already touched your Mars and your Jupiter. So I want to let's start with kind of going back to the season 2 content that I covered from Barbara's book, Chiron in the 6th house. And then we'll go to the season 3 content and we'll cover Chiron in Aries. And then I would love to hear all about kind of since 2018, the buildup that you've been experiencing and the themes building up to your Chiron return. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So with Chiron in the 6th house, I figured it might be helpful to just sort of read through just a couple lines of the material from the book. So with Barbara's content, which she says, Chiron in the 6th house creates a significant connection with medicine and or healing. This person is at first the essence of Saturn, very serious, pessimistic, hypochondriacal, disciplined, devoted, and wisdom comes with time. And then she says, once the person has acquired enough experience with chirotic energy, the energy shifts, and then you become adept at sensing and identifying energy in the body. These people are highly sensitized to the electrical nervous system one way or another, and they are intuitive about what is going on in the body. Body mind balance is critical to people with Chiron in the 6th, and the delicate balance of the 6th house is a great revelation of the essence of chirotic energy. Body energy integration results from careful creation of Saturn form in the life and a careful building of experiences, relationships, and values which do not block self expression.
Mm.
So that's the gist of according to Barbara. And just a reminder for everybody, the themes of the sixth house are day to day. So just like your daily practices, habits, your health, your work on a day-to-day basis, healing journey, definitely with Chiron there for sure, related to your health. And then the highest expression of the sixth house is being of service. So,
Yeah.
Valerie, will you share and touch on what we covered
And
so far?
it's funny because every time you read that, it's just like another like aha moment, right? Another thing. So like the first time I got a reading from you, I was like, you read my chart, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Oh, I can totally understand that. And then, that's to me like the importance of getting your chart read is really to understand yourself and understand how you can work with yourself and how you can learn more about yourself and really gain that wisdom that's going to help you in life and how to get through some of the obstacles that you may face, right? And so, listening to you read that and with Cryon in the sixth house, it's like, oh my God, it's just another level of understanding. Even though I've heard it before, it's just like, oh God, that's understanding. And it's funny because Easter's coming up next week. And I had two of the most amazing parents growing up. And they really, I mean, I still have the two most amazing parents, but why I say growing up is because they allowed all of us to really be our own individual person.
Mm.
It was never like, oh, be more like your sister, or be more like this, or be like this. They really nurtured who we are and allowed us to be whatever it was.
Mm.
And this one Easter, my mom always took us out and let us pick out our own Easter outfit. And this one Easter, I went to the store and it was a time period back in the 80s where like really long shorts were in like below your knees kind of short and really loud. So like think of like bright pinks and like neon colors, neon pinks and greens and yellow. And we go to the store and I see this outfit and it's shorts and a button-down shirt. And I was like, that's what I want. My mom's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, that's perfect. That's what I want. And she's like going, oh, your grandma's gonna not be happy about it, but not, not really say anything.
Mm.
And she's like, not telling me no, but just like kind of reassuring, like this is what you want. Like you're gonna be the loudest person out there. And I remember this whole conversation to this day. And she allowed me to get it. She said, why don't we leave it unbuttoned and we'll get a shirt underneath? And I was like, sure. And I'm like, oh, how about this one? Like green and yellow. And she's like, how about pink? Like the neon pink. Because in pink, even though when it's like bright, still isn't as bright as like a neon yellow. So I got the pink, which is a whole nother story about pink in my life. But
Mm.
and I remember wearing it, taking pictures, and I had to have these specific white 80s sunglasses that had like multiple colors in it and all this. And I'm there, the loudest kid. My sister's like in white, my brother's like in blue, and I'm like this. And I remember my grandma going, just like shaking her. She didn't say nothing. But the point is that my parents always allowed me to express myself however I wanted,
Mm.
which is really important. It's part of the sixth house and being in that sixth house and exploring your self-expression. And no matter how I pivoted, because then I went down this other road and changed up my wardrobe and how I presented myself. And my parents always backed me on it, which was great for somebody that has this placement and is expressing themselves and
Mm.
trying to figure out who I am, right? And who I am and how I am. And so there's always been that exploration. And so I always go back, especially this time of year, and think of that story and going, and this is the kid that also wanted to hide and didn't want people to see them, to had these moments where I was like being very explosive. And
Mm.
what would it be like if people actually saw me? So it was I can see that looking back now as a kid, maybe not quite understanding it, but looking back now at how I did these things where I was like, I don't want anybody to see me, but I really want people to see me for who I am and like
Mm,
be visible. So there's always been this like between me, like back and forth of that. And then how it relates to the health part is really interesting too, because I've always had health issues, like not big time health issues, but like mysterious health issues, like things that like to the point where I'm in like my 30s and my mom's like going to be basically, what's the point of going to the doctor? They're not going to find anything. And it wasn't that I'm a hypochondriac. It was just like having these things and I couldn't understand what they were. But right around 2015, things started shifting for me. And I started to understand. And I started to understand the sensitivity of how I felt energy
mm,
and understanding um, more about what my body is starting to talk to me. And it started there. I mean, I didn't really quite understand it. Probably 2018 is where I really started to grasp it more, like really comprehend what it meant. Um, and, you know, what I realized and come to find out as somebody who is very clairsentient, who's very empathic, um, I feel other people's energy. And that can mean a broad amount of things. Like you can feel people's emotions. I feel people's physical pain
mm.
and take on that physical pain as myself. So trying to understand my body and understand what my body's saying to me helps me to understand that when I feel this, is this me or is this not? And then when I transition to becoming somebody that helps facilitate healing and becoming a healer myself of myself, it helped me to understand that what is my pain and what is somebody else's pain within my body. So it's been a very interesting journey.
It has for sure. And the fact that you said 2015 is actually pretty significant because Barbara talks about the dynamic between Saturn and Uranus. Like that's kind of one of the underlying concepts in the whole book. So, like at your Saturn return, when you turn 30, it would have been an experience of kind of the Saturnian energy. But then when you turn 40 and you're Uranus opposition, that would have been when those more energy systems and all that came online. So discovering that at that point in time is pretty cool.
Yeah. And it was. And I've always embraced that. And it kind of goes, last night I was thinking about Chiron. And, everybody calls Chiron the wounded warrior. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what does that mean? Like when it's kind of like with certain signs, when people are like, oh, I'm a Gemini, and they're like, oh, you're two-faced, it's like that's only part of the aspect of what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and you kind of get that sometimes when you talk about Cryon, they're like, oh, that's the wounded warrior, like it's a negative thing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not. It's the most positive thing because it's really what gets you to understand yourself.
Yes.
And and my belief in this world is that we're here discovering who we are and helping to make ourselves more, bring more back to oneness and come back more to love. And then that expands outward. So it's like you can't go out and do good things in this world and be all about love. You can, but when you do that in conjunction with working on self and bringing yourself back, the op opportunities are endless and endless possibilities. When it comes to Cryon and you look at Cryon and you're like, it's a wounded warrior. Well, that's polarity, right? What is a warrior and what is being wounded mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's really like a polarity. And it's like, okay, to make you a stronger warrior, you have to understand your wounds and embrace them and make them part of you to make you stronger. And I'm like, oh, it's all about duality. It's all about this light and darkness. And when you go through your cry and return, which we'll talk about it, but when things come up for you to face, how are you going to face it? And if you face it in a way as like the wounded warrior is this negative aspect or something, it's probably going to be a little bit harder because you're not embracing that warrior side of you and say, how can embracing this make me stronger? And it was just,
Yes.
and to me, like looking at Cryon that way and helping to have it just makes it so much easier and just more exciting to like go, oh yes, I'm going to take you. You're going to help me be stronger. I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's turning your wound, quote unquote, wounds into your greatest assets. And Chiron
Yeah.
was a master teacher. Chiron's just the master of all, essentially. And that part gets so forgotten in the discussion and the archetype and, like you said, the duality piece. Like, okay, the wounded healer, quote unquote, like that's just so it's trite to me to an extent, and it doesn't get to like the depth and the honor that we should be giving this, you know, asteroid god that was discovered just in 1977. It's just having these experiences is so important, and then like you explained so beautifully, just seeing like the health challenges and all of that, embracing them and diving more deeply and embodiment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the key.
yeah,
And it's funny because when you say that it wasn't discovered till 1977, well, if you look at my chart, I was born in 1975. So
yep,
the first 2 years he was hidden in my in there until he came to life or light,
yeah,
which is both.
both. Breathing life into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you actually set up a really good segue to go into Chiron and Aries. Do you want to, is there anything else
Sure.
you want to talk about as far as the
No,
sixth house goes?
let's dive in.
Okay. So Chiron and Aries, as according to Barbara, this is so beautifully, just the way that you set it up was so beautiful. So she says, when Chiron is in Aries, the search for identity predominates. Who am I? Why am I here? What do they all want from me? So there's that piece. And then she also talks pretty deeply about being a trailblazer, a warrior, having the Chiron experiences be like warrior initiations and courage. And because Chiron's in Aries, there's an association with the Mars energy as well, because Mars rules Aries. And you actually have Mars in Aries at 16 degrees, close to your Chiron. It's a
Yeah.
pretty wide orb conjunction, but it's there. They cozy up.
Cozy up.
Yep. So can you
Yeah.
go into the more of the identity piece and the I
Yeah.
think you're one of the most sensitive badasses I know. So
It's funny because I remember like I think it was like 2 years ago we were doing like my solar return and Mars came up and I was like, man, I really need to understand Mars more.
yes, I
Really
remember that.
understand Mars and what it brings to it, what it brings to the chart and what it brings to there. And uh, one of the things that I still try to balance is learning when to not overextend myself and bring
Mm,
myself back. And to me, that's part about being in tune to their body. But if we talk about that identity piece to it, and we can look at it, we can look at it through um, many different lenses because we're made up of many different things. So, you know, I remember in high school, I had a teacher, I was studying for architecture because I wanted to be an architect. And
mm,
I love art and I love architecture and it's still near and dear to me. And he kept saying, no, you're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a teacher. And at that time, my idea of a teacher was standing in front of a classroom like he was and teaching kids. And I'm like, there is no way I am doing this. Like, there is no way. And it took me years later where I'm standing in front of people in a restaurant and I'm teaching them about like the steps of service. And then I'm going and I'm teaching, I'm like, oh my God, he was so right. I am a teacher. I am a teacher. I'm like, why did I not embrace it? Because, our limit of what we think something is, right? Once can expand it and come out. And then you realize where other aspects, like it's not just about standing in front of people, it's about even one-on-one interactions. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you like necessarily teaching somebody in a way, in a manner. It's just helping them to understand and maybe giving them tools. But also, you teach people by being you and setting examples.
Mm.
And that's always been something for me. Like, I always wanted to lead by example. So I always want to be the example of how to do it. And it doesn't mean that people have to do things my way. It's like, oh, I see this. Well, how can it work for me? So my identity of embracing the teacher in me and then embracing myself as, a lesbian was like a huge part of my identity.
Hmm.
Then when I switched and I started to become, a healer, embracing that part of it and what does that bring to my identity? And then when people started calling me a psychic, it was like, and these were wounds that I had to heal too, right? Because it wasn't just about identity, but it's about, okay, the idea of what a psychic is and what the psychic does. And growing up right outside Atlantic City, you walk on the boardwalk and you see all these palm readers and this and not all of them are very honest people. So to me, it always had this lower vibrational vibe to it of what it was. And then I hear, stories. And so it wasn't just about, it's about what I internalized from other people and understanding that. So I had to go in and really heal that to embrace that. And really didn't happen until right around 2023 that I really started embracing that part of actually calling myself a psychic.
Mm.
Um, I never like really wanted to be called that. And it's also the understanding of what it is, like what a psychic is. And it's not somebody that tells you your future. It's about somebody that sees the picture that helps you to to guide you into what you could do in your higher vibration and give you information to help you navigate those areas in your life. That's the type of psychic I am and what I want to be, not somebody that's going to say this, and this, because we go back, it's all about learning about ourselves and empowering us to be our own personal. So walking through these identities, and then I don't know, right around 2023 or something, it was also the identity of me because, as a kid, I always dressed more tomboyish. I always cut my hair. My hair was always short. I grew it out at one point, but it was always this. And, I've been called sir so many times in my life. And it's so funny because it happened yesterday.
Did
And
it
I was like,
really?
oh, I said, this is leading me up to today. I could just
Yeah.
tell. Um, and when I was younger and especially like coming out, people would call me sir, I would get so mad and angry at
Mm.
it. And I didn't quite understand why. And then, when all this stuff started coming about and people started being more open and talking about these things and talking about gender and gender identity and what does that mean? And, changing their pronouns to fit who they are,
Hmm.
who they feel they are. And it can be very fluid. It doesn't have to be, because we're fluid beings. It doesn't have to be, this is what it is, and then this is, you're confused. No, it's about you just growing and understanding who you are. If somebody, like, if you're a kid in college like me and you're like, oh, I'm going to school for architect, and then all of a sudden I change and I don't do that, you don't turn around and say, oh, that's not who you are. That's not who you meant to be. Why are you changing your mind? I mean, there is some of that, but it's not like, okay, so I call myself she, her, and now I want to call myself they, them. What's the difference? It's not hurting you and me. It's me trying to understand. And then if I decide, what, that didn't really work for me, I want to go back. There's nothing wrong with that because it's discovering. It's just like if I stepped away from architecture and then decided I wanted to jump back, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Mm.
you discovering who you are and helping understand your own identity. And so, I went through that and I'm like, no, I'm really comfortable with how I express myself and still being called she, her. And that's who I am. If somebody called me sir or he, him, it's not what I want to go by, but I don't, it doesn't have that power and that negativity. So
Mm.
I was turning around and I was doing something at work, and this young kid was like, "Sir, what's the bathroom code?" I'm like, "It's 1735." And I just let it be what it was. Didn't correct him, didn't like anything, didn't I came at it with just such like it was just every day. And you could see when I turned around, he had like that little like, oh, like thing, and
Oops.
I just let it go. And the interaction just happened so organically. And he's like, "Oh, thank you so much." And he went on his way. And there was none of this awkwardness or forcing him to be awkward by my own reaction to it.
That's so
And
powerful.
I was like, oh, this is so important for tomorrow because it's all about your identity and yourself. And when you get comfortable with your identity, it doesn't matter what other people call you or what other people say to you because you know who yourself
Mm.
is. So, and if it does come up and it hits something, it's like, oh, there's another little layer of healing to bring to it. And to
Mhm.
me, that's really like even the essence of Cryon. Like he helps us to see those opportunities for us to heal, to understand ourselves
Yes.
and be their badass warriors.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then can I just share a little bit about where your son is and kind of relate it to
Yeah,
the story that you're
absolutely.
telling? So Valerie's sun is at 20 degrees of Gemini in the eighth house. So we have that element as well about, stepping out of that, the eighth house is called the closet. It's like that, colloquial term for all the things that live there. And your identity does live there because it's your sun placement. And then you also have Mercury very close, retrograde at 18 degrees of Gemini. So Chiron actually makes a very harmonious aspect in a sextile to your sun and your Mercury. So Chiron sort of like always had your back in a way in all of these layers and unpacking all of this and this whole journey that you've had so far in your entire life, being and coming into who you are.
Yeah. And it actually feels that way. Like when you say Chiron's got your back, I'm like, it feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like
Yeah.
he's always been there, just kind of like guiding you along and nudging you this way.
Yep. That's
Um,
exactly how it works. Usually, my astrology teacher always called Chiron an inconvenient teacher.
yeah,
And, learning and having, talking to people and reading and, working with people, it's just like that is such an apt description of the way Chiron works.
yeah. It's funny because you said that and it just like triggered some. So I've been dealing with this like lower back pain, but I really feel like it's coming from my right hip and it's just kind
Mm-hmm.
of reading it that way. So it's kind of like this hip pain. And I've been dealing with it and I've been like going in and healing and talking to it. Which I got these tools, that tool from Dr. Teresa. Talk to it, ask it what it wants and all these things and just kind of like being with it. And I'm at this pivotal spot right now in my life where um, I left in 2017, I left my job as a GM to go out and explore healing and that. And, using my psychic abilities to do things. And it did well, but not like what I was making. And then I had an opportunity after 2020 to kind of go back into the food and beverage, which was always temporary. And I left there and I was kind of done with it again. And then I kind of got back into it again because, you fall back onto what you know. And the money in food and beverage is decent. Like, yeah, it can help you do things. And learning to really expand yourself and bring in money and revenue to like live the life maybe that you want
Mm-hmm.
or to put food on your table at some point. Um, Sometimes getting into the healing and growing that business isn't so easy. But I've
Yeah.
been working on that hand in hand. So I'm at this point of um, where it's like, okay, do I keep doing what I'm doing or do I step off and stop doing what I'm doing and do what I know I'm meant to be doing, which is being a teacher, being a healer, like going out and talking there. And I'm at this point, and my hip is the driver of this all,
Yeah.
right?
Can
The
you talk
hip
about
and
what that means?
yeah. So, um, so if you look at the hips in your body, and you can relate it to astrology, and I know you told me, I think it's, oh, I forgot. Is it
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius?
Hmm.
Um, and so, you know, the hips about moving forward. So the pain is the resist is showing up as resistance to me wanting to move forward into what I want to do. And the lower back, going into lower back, back has a lot to do with like feeling supported. So even though I feel supported, there's a part of me that also feels that I'm not supported
Hmm.
in doing this. So it's like, and is that support coming from someone else, or also is that coming from me? So, part of it is that I know it's the right move and I know it's going to bring me what I want, but I know that there's going to be growing pains. And so I'm not supporting myself going through those growing pains to get to where I know I'm supposed to be.
Hmm.
So there's that part of it. And the hip is the like the restruct like resisting and moving forward, but it also has to be, so Sagittarius to me has a lot to do with I always look at them as like a free spirit and kind of do what
Hmm.
they want, kind of.
Hmm.
Um, and so I'm resisting doing what I want. And it's showing
Yes.
up in pain in my body.
Yes. And it's so interesting because this is your Chiron return story.
Yeah,
And just the fact that it started showing up in 2017, 2018, that's when Chiron started shifting into your sixth house.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's been inching along and moving along, and you're just to show to speak to it for anybody not watching the video, your north node's in Sagittarius. So that is your soul's growth. It's in the second house. So it's all tied in, like the income story, doing what you want, having the confidence and I mean, I know you have the confidence and the self-esteem, but the parts of it that are the resources part are,
mm,
being challenged by some things right now too. So I mean, so you are like right now 3 months out from the first pass of your Chiron return. So Chiron will come to 27 degrees of Aries on July 16th, 2025. So pretty cool synchronicity that we're recording this after
yeah,
trying several times 3 months out from your first, and your 50th birthday is coming up before that. And that's when
yep,
it all kind of starts to come online. But the themes really do start to develop once Chiron moves into the house of where the return will happen.
yeah. And
And
it's funny
then,
because today I have a decision to make.
oh, you do?
Yeah,
Care to share?
yeah. So I've been working out of this place in Las Vegas called Enchanted Forest Reiki Center and more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's an amazing place. It has a lot of different healers and offerings and teachings and crystals and sound bowls, all this wonderful stuff. So I've been working out of that, doing some healings and some Akashic record readings and things like that. Um, but I have an opportunity to go there and work there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what that does is working there isn't where it happens, but by being able to say, oh, this is where I'm going to work and not work at the place where I'm working now that takes up so much time, I can do classes and I can devote more time and interact with more people, um, and be there to do more of the healing and the psychic and the classes and teaching. And she has this amazing other space. It's like two buildings and it's this big room. And I have my wedding officiating license, and I really want to do more of that too because I'm all about love and bringing in love and joy. And
Mm-hmm.
um, she has this big space, and she's like, we could do weddings in the back too, you know, during the day, and we could get, and it's like this opportunity. But I know that it's going to take some months for it to kind of really get me to where I'm at financially with this other place. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, okay, is it time to take that jump and do it? And part of me knows, yes, it is. And then it's the other part in the back of the head. But, you know, how are you going to put food on your table? How are you going to
Right.
pay your car payment? How you're going to, pay your rent? And I'm not in this myself, but you know, it's still there. Mhm.
Yeah.
Still sitting there and still there. So that's my decision to make, and I have a couple hours to make it.
Mm,
And I've gone back and forth. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So
very interesting.
yeah, very
It's
interesting.
such a sixth house story too. I wonder if you go the route of everything you just described and get to share with the world and the Las Vegas population all of your beautiful gifts, how your hip pain will ease up.
Oh, I think it would.
Yeah.
I
And it's
definitely
it's
think
so
it
all
would.
connected.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you want to share about the Chiron return experience so far before it actually hits?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, because I did pull a card for you from the Work Your Light deck, which is the one that I picked for you for today.
Okay.
Let's stop the share so we can. So, Val, the card that I pulled, The Great Gathering, it's all coming together, intuitive hits, Soul Tribe. And I actually pulled this way early on when you were telling the story about your childhood and Easter.
That's funny.
Isn't that cool? So, would you like to
That is
hear?
cool.
This isn't too long, so I can actually read it, for time's sake.
Yeah.
So, you're being called to let your intuition move you physically. You are connected to a group of souls who are weaving a web around the planet, and as you travel and share your creations, something is rethreaded. This card is an acknowledgement that you are either being called to connect with others who are like you at a soul level, or that you already are. You are being called to gather groups of people, either by leading them or becoming part of a group that can support you and your soul's personal mission.
Hmm.
You are part of a group of souls who agreed to be here at this time in history to heal yourself, your ancestral line, and the planet. To raise consciousness so that we can continue to call this magnificent place home for eras to come. One of the many consciously choosing to devote your life to something greater than yourself. It is time to call in your tribe by sharing your soul's voice and letting yourself be seen. When you share what is real and true to you, and you share the medicine that you most need, those who are like you will gather around you. You are your tribe. They are just like you. And just as you are longing and searching for them, they are longing and searching for you too. Work your light activation. This is one of the activation cards in the deck. Hold the card to your heart and say, I choose now to let myself be seen. I am ready to call in my soul tribe and create a web of light all over the planet.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yep.
So beautiful. I'll send this to you. It's always a mic drop moment with the card.
It always is. It always is. And um, yeah, definitely is like that's cars that's saying yes, to take that moment, that movement and go forward. Now is the time. And I see it, I hear it. But I also want to say this too. So for anybody that's like listening out there, it's like, you know, I I see that moment and whether I say yes or whether I say no, there's not a wrong answer in it.
Yeah.
There's not a wrong answer in whatever choice I make. The thing is that one, like when you said, oh, I'd love to see how your hip pain do. And I'm like, I know if I say yes, that hip pain, it still might be there, but it's not going to be as prevalent. My relationship to it will change. It will ease up and it will might show back up again when it comes time for me to make another big decision to help me along that way.
Yeah.
If I stay the path that I am on, that pain might be consistent. It might be something that is there and it just doesn't go away. And then there might be some other challenges. And it's all what it's doing is showing you that, this isn't the path that might be for your highest good and your highest well-being. And maybe it's time for you to make a change. But it's not saying you're wrong, that you shouldn't have done this bad. There might have been something else that you had to learn. And
Yeah.
maybe that's something else is that your physical well-being is much better than maybe your financial well-being. And that pain that you might go through in that change of that financial, like not having exactly everything that you have right now, might feel a little bit hard, but that physical pain is definitely more painful and
Yeah.
harder to go through. And it's a learning of experience and it's evolving and it's your body telling you. So whatever it is in your story, whatever it is for you, when you're at this crossroad or you're trying to figure this out, or you're like, why does the universe keeps giving me these same lessons to repeat? I've already learned these lessons. Well, you already learned what you could learn at that moment. Now there's more for you to learn.
Hmm.
There's more for you to grow. There's more wisdom for you to gain. So look at it that way to help you navigate more towards what you're going through. It's like Mercury retrograde. People are like, I hate Mercury retrograde. Da, da, da. And I'm like, embrace it. Embrace what it's showing you. The full moon. Embrace it's all there. Your physical pain, it's all there to help you grow and help you learn about yourself. And I really embrace that.
Yeah.
And and understand that. And that's why I love astrology. I'm not an astrologer. I do love to look at people's charts because I see it and I'm like, okay, this makes sense and help them. Because to me, it's a tool to help you and help you understand yourself and help you navigate this life, this human life that you decided to step into and walk this earth.
Yeah. Yep. Every time I sit with somebody, whether they've seen their chart before or not, it's always an opportunity to just help them feel seen and validated and to just see like the different levels of vibration that their that the chart actually holds and how you can
Yeah.
just go through all of these cycles, like you said, of healing, of learning. And each time it's a little bit deeper. And if something repeats, it's an invitation.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
like, yeah, I almost every year, I think last year, since I was the first year since I've met you that I didn't do my solar return. And it was like
hmm.
just so much going on in my life. And it was like, oh my God, I didn't do it. Right. And I'm like, I really like to do it just because it's like a roadmap for what your year and what things that you might and help you to navigate them as they come up. And I think it's just a great opportunity to just kind of lay out of like what's going to help you and what you might see when you're going through it and like, okay, I can work on that. I can understand this. I can get more comfortable with Mars. Come on, buddy, let's go.
Let's go. Yeah.
You know,
Ride or
and
die.
and be that way. So I just think it's a great opportunity. And if you're listening to this and you haven't had your chart done or anything, I highly suggest it, especially when you're learning more about who you are and
Yeah.
how you want to navigate yourself in this world.
Well said. So beautiful. Oh, is there anything else that you want to share about the Forest Center or where people can find you in Vegas?
Yeah, so I do work out of there. So if you come to Vegas, we get a lot of people from out of town that just come there. They come to Vegas, but it's amazing how many people just still venture off the strip and the area because we're so much bigger than one little street with all the
Hmm.
casinos out here. Which was my view when I first came out here. My second my second stint out here, I was like, I'm going to embrace the area more and. Um, so there's a lot to do in nature, anything. But Enchanted Forest is on Jones in Las Vegas, but I also do uh, virtual readings and things like that, and distance healing and all that wonderful stuff. So you can look me up on Instagram at Intuitive Heart Healer and do all that.
I
And
can
if you're coming to
vouch.
Vegas and you want to get married, you can look me up at Blissful Hearts Connections, and that's my wedding. I think because bringing marriage, bringing two souls together and really want to bring in the healing aspect of it as you grow.
Mm. It's beautiful. And I can vouch. I've had many sessions with Val, and you are just beautiful, and the connection is just so incredible. Even now that we're not in the same physical space or state, it's still there. So I am just honored to know you and to have you on and to share your story. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're
And it's
welcome.
always great to have a conversation with you,
Yeah.
whether it's recorded or not. I always love to have our conversations.
Happy Chiron return.
Thanks.
Till next time, everyone. Bye.
Bye.